Hello, and welcome to Unscheduled Flights, exploring the realms of inspiration, innovation, and creativity. I'm your host, Ambika Waters, and I welcome you to this podcast and hope you find it as interesting as I do. Hello, I'm Ambika Waters, and I'm here today on Unscheduled Flights with a friend and a colleague, Susan KEEFE from the East Coast, who is a homeopath and a shaman. And she brings a very unusual optic to our work. And I'm thrilled to introduce you to Susan. Hello.
Oh, hello, Ambika. It is so good to be on here with you, dear friend. And
Thank
I
you.
am looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. Would you like to tell us about your path to bring shamanism and homeopathy together? It's an unusual gift.
It was not, oh, it did this. I I was got to a point in my life where it was time to become myself. What are you going to be when you grow up? Okay,
Yes,
right?
right.
So I went to a healer and we did all these tests and the things that you do. What are you good at? And she said, you need to be a healer. And I had my bachelor's already in hotel administration. There's a healer element to bringing people in and giving comfort, but that wasn't it. And so I started to look at alternative medicines, which I'd never really investigated prior. And I'm looking at the naturopathic and traditional Chinese and homeopathy and this one and that one. And homeopathy just was logical to me. I could wrap my head around the logic of homeopathy.
Yes.
So thought, well, what the heck does that mean? So I ended up finding a school in Cambridge, Massachusetts at the time that was open. Wonderful school that has regretfully since closed because people wanted an online school versus a community in-person school. And
Was
that
that
wasn't it.
teleosis? Was it
Yes,
teleosis? Yeah. Lucky
scoliosis.
you. Lucky you. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Cool.
Oh, phenomenal women.
Yeah.
I still meet with women that I graduated from every couple months. We meet on a Friday and we toss things up on the wall to be talked about and we
Yeah.
come together and it's still a collaborative and I'm still dear friends with so many of them. It was such a gift. And I'm still attending things with Loretta, who was one of the original creators of the school.
Right.
Just a gift. So that was 4 years. And in that we took had to take pre-med classes and and all of that. And one of the homeworks was Loretta Buhorn. If I Is it okay to say other people's names? Is that all right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
She had a basket with these slips of paper in it. And we all picked a slip of paper, and this was homework. So I picked shaman. And no one was talking about shaman. I wasn't even sure what the heck that even meant. And I knew it had something to do with, real old school kind of stuff. And Loretta said, find a person that does this practice, go to them, make the appointment, because these are things that people that come to you as a homeopath might also be going to, would have the funds to do so. So we'd all go and attend and come back and explain what it was. So I went to go see Loretta's very good friend, Anne Drake, in Gloucester, who was still my shaman. And I sat with her to journey. Well, she sat with me to journey. And I journeyed right alongside her and came out of it. And she doesn't tend to say what the journey was. I do that with my clients now, but that's not her way. So I said to her, what did you see? And she said this. And then I said, then this happened. She said, what? And then I walked through the whole journey with her because I was with her there. I had gone into that space with her. And she said, so that doesn't normally happen. Clients that I work with will see pieces, but not all the details. So I'm like, well, that's interesting. And I knew as a child that we were magic. I knew if I called somebody in, they would show up. in a day or so. If I wanted the weather to change, I asked for rain or asked for snow, and it would happen. If things, what I said with pure prayer and intent happened. And I thought everybody was like that. And I think everybody is, but people forgot, right?
I agree. Oh, I agree.
So I was magic. Then I remembered the magic. I still knew the magic. And then it kind of gets worked out of you as you're an adult, and we don't do those things. And you're just crazy. And you think, I don't think so, but okay. So you pack it away. And I packed it away. And then in sitting with Anne, that door opened back up. And I went to see her 2 more times, and the same thing happened. And she said, "You need to study this." I said,
Yeah.
"Okay." So I trained with her for 10 years, and it was beautiful. And there's still women there that I trained with that I'm still dear friends with. Dear friends with. We are, as you know, when you train with people at that level, there's a soul contract that's established that matters. So I'm training with her, and I'm also going to homeopathy school. And to me, what I thought was, no one knew what a homeopath was. No one knew what a shaman was. They were both ridiculous. And I thought if I could sit with my homeopathic clients and just see that much further through their layers, through their levels, what's going on and where the hits were and where the pain is and what's the core that this person is sitting in front of me might not even know anymore, and tend to that, I could expedite their healing. I thought that was brilliant. The vital force.
I do too.
Vital force said no, no, no.
Really? Really?
Because what Source said to me was, if the person that's sitting in front of you is prepared to heal and is at this point, at this level, at this stage, that's their healing stage. If you violate their trust that you're going to meet them at the stage that they are ready to heal and go deeper where they're not ready to heal yet, you need to work to that. You'll violate their trust and you can cause harm.
Well, there's truth in that. There is absolute truth in that. Yeah.
Right?
Interesting. So the schematics were given to you on how to move forward with this.
So I put it away again. Like, okay, no one's going to understand what this is. I was networking the heck out of myself because I was opening up a new practice. No one knew what it was. I was attending networking things twice a week. I was all over the place. I'm a homeopathic practitioner, and I'm a certified homeopath and a shamanic practitioner. What? This is 10 years ago, right? No one knew these words. So I had to be explaining and explaining and explaining and explaining. And it worked. And what happened over time was my practice has been half shamanic, half homeopathic right from the start. People found me. Those that needed to come, hey.
Yeah.
And the more it crossed boundaries, the more maybe it was a matter of Source waiting until I was on level enough ground between the two modalities to work both at the same time. I think maybe at the beginning, I wasn't prepared to handle that well, and Source understood that and was like, wait until you get here, and then both tools you can use at the same time. So that's how that has worked thus far. That answered your question in a roundabout way.
Yeah, it does. And it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think many of us, not all of us, but many of us who use homeopathy have the capacity for depth, to go deep into the source of disharmony, if you will, to see what's blocked. shamanism is a journey and it's beautiful that you describe it that way. And it strikes me that it's very compatible with giving a remedy, because it isn't just a little white pill. People who think it's just a little white pill does the magic. It's the person who does the magic. It's the person themselves who do the magic. And shamanism I haven't had a lot of shamanic experience. It's never called me. A little bit, sometimes a little here, a little there. But I've been fascinated because I've known you now for, I don't know, 8, 9 years, and I've seen your strength and your courage and your willingness to serve and bring healing where you can. And it's got to be part of your journey, this shamanic element. Explain more how you do it, how you work with people. Maybe share an experience that you've had with the two, because they have this compatibility. The remedy opens the door, and then they can do the work and let go and process and find a level of inner stability and peace. That's what I see in terms of healing. Share more, would you, please?
All right. A gentleman who came in today, this morning, and we have been working together for probably 5 years or so now. And when he came from a very affluent family, and that's just who he is. So there was an assumption of a level of life, and very into the football and the games and the private schools and all that. And then regretfully, he had a horrible death of his best friend leaving a party that he asked him to leave, who'd been drinking, who did not make it home that night. And that was the first hit. The second hit was after that, he crashed on the football field and got very hurt. And it was all about the football. And that was a second hit. And then he started drinking more and more and more and more. And he has a wonderful wife and he had one child at that point, 2 wonderful children, very successful family business and all of that, and all that glamour and the boats and all of that stuff. And he was falling hard. And his wife is saying, well, it's the anger issues. And he did have anger issues. And it was the alcohol issues. And he did have alcohol issues, of course. But those were the blocks. That was the protection. That was the box. So we started with heavy doses of Nat Muir to get through the grief that he was, because he's saying, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. But it was this very masculine grief that was just entrenched in his soul. And that opened him up a little bit. And then from there, we went a little more tenderly with Ignatia. Once he started to allow himself to cry, we became more tender with it. And then, addictions being what they are, which is a protection for the pain so often, we started going into different remedies that support coming off of alcohol, supporting alcohol withdrawals. I've got this really lovely protocol. There's like 3 of them or 4 of them. I forget them now to be able to say them off the top of my mouth, excuse me. And that started breaking him down. And then we were going into he was going into the rehabs and things like that. And it was rocky. And he just came here today, and he's 1 year sober. And we've gone into we did some shamanic work. Oh my gosh, his grandfather. His safe place as a child was his grandparents' house, which had a beautiful gardens and vineyards and all this beautiful stuff. So when I was journeying with him, beside him, I found myself in this beautiful vineyard, and big old school wicker chairs, wooden chairs that have been out in the weather all this time. And there was this beautiful old man sitting on one of the chairs. And he called my client over to sit next to him and had this conversation, which this person needed to hear so badly, so badly. Sorry. And that his grandfather needed to tell him so badly. And there were things in that conversation that there was no way that I could have created. There was no way I could have known what his grandfather said to him, because he talked about this place and that place and this person. I didn't know these names or these places. I'm the messenger. That's all I am. I am the veil between the two. And that confirmation from his grandfather and being back at that place, his safe place, and describing it beautifully, was huge. That gave him the platform to stand on and remember who he was as a child before all the hurt came, because there were divorces and things like that. And then his father passed away, which is terrible. And then his stepfather passed away, which is terrible, just in the last few years. So we've continued to work through this grief. And we've gone back to the shamanic and talked to his dad, came to talk to him. And
This is
we,
beautiful.
oh my
Beautiful,
gosh.
beautiful, beautiful. Because
And
this
it just,
ancestral thing, this ancestral thread, I say when you give a remedy to a person, you are healing their ancestral line. It's not even your grief. It's grief that goes so far back in time that we carry because nobody ever was willing to make it conscious. So you are creating this crucible of consciousness that is so liberating when somebody can touch on that. I love this ancestral thing. And that is a journey back in time to free everybody, to free the souls of the dead who have passed, who carried the taint, who carried the miasms, who carried the, I want to say misinformation, just whatever got twisted there somewhere along the line, and bringing it into consciousness. Wow, that he could carry that you could guide him through that, not just with the remedies, but that is the shamanic path, and that is powerful. Wow.
remedies gave him courage to go to work shamanically.
I think remedies open a door. That's what I always say.
Right.
Opens a door for healing to happen. It doesn't, it can send somebody into therapy. It can send somebody to the health food store. It can send somebody to better quality of sleep or to clear their relationships. It opens a door. But with the shamanic work, going back to the ancestors, clearing the path, whew, I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. Let me ask you a question a bit aside. Can you do this distance-wise? Can you do it like online, like this? Can somebody find you and say, I need to clear something? Or do you need face to face, flesh to flesh? Eyeball to
I
eyeball.
right. I fought that for years. I did. And
Yeah,
Andre kept telling me, just do it, just do it. And
right.
then
Yeah.
COVID happened. Um,
Oh,
and
right.
I
Right.
shut my office for about 2.5 weeks and said, this is absolutely ridiculous. And I marched back in with all my books and remedies, and everybody came and we were fine. So,
Yeah. Good.
um, so she said, just do it. So the first one I did it, the woman was in California, and I explained to her, this is the first time I've done this. If this does not work out, I will not charge you for this time. So she said, I'm willing to do this. I've heard X, Y, and Z about you, please. And we did. And there was a point, and I speak on the phone. I don't see them face to face at this point. We talk on the phone for about half an hour. What do you need? And I'm feeling into their energy, and I'm getting information from their guides and their power animals on where we're going. And then I hang up the phone, do the work, and then I always write it down, every detail, because it's like I forget, and then I just write, and then call them back, and we go through it. And that has worked a lot more well there's a new term, than I thought it was going to.
A lot more well works for me. I know what you're saying. So you can do distance work.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
it's a tremendous gift. And I think for people who really want to explore not just what's on the surface, but the in-depth things that created that soul lineage between you and your ancestors. I've started to study Mary Magdalene and the Rose line with Jan.
Mhm.
We're just looking at it. It's brand new and baby fresh. But this idea of lineage, going back and back and back, and what was the lesson, and what did you learn, and how can that be healed, transformed and healed, because we carry it. It's unconscious, it runs us. I remember when I was in England and it was such a strange, different place. I was in the north of England. People were very private, very closed, very singular and uncommunicative. And it was not like the California I had grown up in. And I thought, what can I do to feel safe here? And my grandparents, who had come from Russia to America, kind of popped up in my consciousness. They didn't speak English. They had children who did, but they went to Pueblo, Colorado, and they started making a life. And I thought, they were big with me and they stayed with me. And I had this sense of real protection and love and courage. Courage is what it took to stay in England for 10 years, learn homeopathy, start writing, and they stayed with me. And when I went to Israel to write a book, I got caught in a bomb scare in Jerusalem. And there was my great grandfather saying, go into that alley and walk with the people. Don't get, it was really clear. This man was saying in my consciousness, go into that alley, turn left, and walk with all those people who are taking their children to safety. So whenever I get scared or I need courage, I go to my great grandparents, and they have been a source of support. I wouldn't call them my spirit guides because I don't think they are, but that ancestral thing of courage, integrity, the ability to stick with something, to take huge risks, that's in our bone marrow. And you're finding you have this way of bringing it to the forefront to let people tap into that gift. It's there for all of us. I love what you're doing, and I hope that people who are listening to you want more of this. So how do you see it going forward? Are you going to train people? You're going to start training people?
I've been asked to do that a lot.
Good.
Um,
Good.
I don't know. It doesn't seem to resonate. I'm waiting for the answer for that one. Um, we'll see. To finish to the genetic imprints, I do a lot of genetic imprints, and it's beautiful to watch the woman or the man I'm with the father behind him and his father behind him and his father behind him. And they different things happen between those generations where they pass back or cut or burn or release and go back to the next one, and all the way back 5, 6 generations or so. It's a beautiful
You
thing.
go that far back? Wow.
But also it goes forwards. So what the
Wow.
person in front of me carries, therefore it no longer goes forwards to the next generation. It's healed.
It's healed. Whoa. It opened,
That's
wow, talk about opening doors. Wow.
mhm,
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. May I ask you a question?
of course.
There's the ancestral stuff, but there's also the soul stuff that a person brings in that is their own unique connection to spirit, interplanetary consciousness, angelic consciousness. that isn't in the family line or isn't, can you see the difference there? How do you differentiate that?
The other ways that I work shamanically is a lot of bringing back soul loss parts.
Right.
Um,
Retrieval.
right. I have a lot of psychiatrists that send their clients here that they've done talk therapy for so long, and they don't even know what the start is.
Right.
They don't even know that 5-year-old under the table in terror, those parts are gone from their consciousness, and the psychiatrist doesn't know how to get there because they don't know. Those parts I find um and bring, and I see what happened, and I see the horrors, and I see the fear, I see what happened. I've worked with a lot of veterans, people from a lot of abuse, and I see um sorry, and I am very guided by source on the words that I say to the client, because it's not a matter of re-traumatizing them. uh, It's a matter of bringing back that peace with love and light and healing, and blowing it into their heart and blowing it into their crown, and having just enough information for them to know exactly what I'm talking about without it hurting. Whether it's explaining a blanket that was wrapped around them that their grandmother made, whether it was looking out the window and seeing what was there, or a room, or a car. Um, and there's always, if it's a child, there's always an animal with the child to keep the child to feel safe, which is quite adorable. Um, so there's those pieces. That's a big part. Um, Breaking contracts that no longer serve, and removing that other person from their lives, whether they like it or not. Removing dark energy that gets attached. There's so many things.
Wow,
The,
that's
the
really
gene-
exciting. It's exciting.
and then there's so many more often than not coming out of these journeys and realizing that we need a dose of aconite or two. We need Nat Self for head traumas. We need Nat Mura. We need Ignatia. We need and I'll say to the client that's there for shamanic, there's a remedy that I'd like to recommend to you. Would you like to have it? I don't make the assumption. And I don't think anyone said no, but I always ask for permission.
Sure.
And that on the shamanic side will open up the homeopathic client more deeply. And so we'll start to do both. And the homeopathic clients will come in, and there's so many times that I've had people, guides, stand behind clients I'm working with homeopathically, and they have something to say. Like, oh no, they're gonna think I'm absolutely out of my mind now. There we go.
Oh, no.
So, there's someone behind you, and what? And because there's something important, and that gets exchanged. Again, asking permission. Do you want this information? Because
Right.
if you don't, you're violating them. You can't, it's like you can't have someone just come up to the grocery store and say, I see someone behind you. That's a violation. That's incorrect procedures, wrong. Um, so the homeopathic client will know the other side of the room with the shamanic work and the bowls and the bells and the crystals and all, and start asking about it. And 9 out of 10 times we end up, as I call it, on both sides of the couch, because I have this long couch. It goes down the middle, and the front is the homeopathic, and behind it's the shamanic. Um, and kids love to go back there and play with the bowls and the bells. And they are, I work with autism kids, and they go back there and they just go, like, okay, they're fine. And mamas and I, or dads and I, get to talk. What are you seeing? Where are we? What do we need? And going forwards, and they're peaceful back there, which is lovely. So they cross, and then more and more being allowed. Is that the word? Allowed to see deeper as I sit homeopathically with the shamanic work and toss it back there and bring it forward. Again, asking for permission if this is what they want me to do and what source wants me to do, because homeopathically is a different story. Not really, though. Homeopathically is very spiritual to me.
Oh, to me too. But it takes it's what I call visionary thinking. It's right and left brain. You need the left brain consciousness to not to ask the questions, but to analyze the data that's been handed to you, collate it, and find the remedy. I mean, yes, you can intuit the remedy, but it's a thinking process as well. It's a refinement. Maybe you've got 3 remedies in there and you've got to think about what fits. But it's what I call visionary thinking. Both sides of the brain need to really be engaged to do it well. You've got a great gift, my dear. And as you talk about it, your face becomes that of a Native American woman. Yeah, you get, as you talk, your face kind of morphs into this very beautiful, wise woman, not old, not an old woman, a woman like in her 30s or 40s, but very wise and very clear. Have you ever had it done to you where you saw your lineage?
I've worked with Anne many times. And we don't go into lineage. We have worked on my work here has been tough. And that's okay. I signed up for this. And I know that I signed up to do this work here in this lifetime. And I sure as hell want to see that piece of paper when I go up there and say, I want to know what the hell was I was thinking. Because I believe that. I believe we are higher beings in these physical envelopes. And
I agree.
we chose all the people that come into our lives. We've contracted with them. And, even if it's just for a flash, you see that person and know them. If that's the only instance you get with that curse, that soul to see again, then just adore that. So I also believe that our purpose is to do the work we've chosen to do this time, and free will being what it is, human beingness being what it is, coming off the path and back to the path and back around, and then ascend our soul, not the quality of the soul, the essence, the highness, and come back until we've done the work that we no longer need to return. That's how I believe we are here. So I want to see that list. I want to see that contract because it's been a tricky one, but that's okay.
I don't think the path was ever meant to be easy. How else do you learn? How else do you learn objectivity, forgiveness, levels of integrity, the willingness, courage to stand up for yourself? And I found that homeopathy itself as a medicine actually enforces that. You cannot be low life and do homeopathy. You have to rise to the level of the medicine and the level of the spirit of homeopathy. Sankaran wrote that book called The Spirit of Homeopathy, and I loved that title. I thought it's really beautiful. But I was talking to somebody today about self-care, and I said, self-care did not come naturally to me. It really didn't. My younger days were kind of wild days. And I thought, I can't live like this and do this work. I've got to clean up my act. I've got to get my diet right, get enough of the right exercise. I've got to get enough rest. I need to have a vacation every year. There were things I said, if I'm going to do this work, I've got to step up to the plate of my own life. And that's been very, very healing for me. And I really love that. It's like, once you know what your purpose is and what you're put on this planet to do, you have to take care of the vessel. You've got to clean out, as a friend called it, harvest out the negativity, because it doesn't serve you. And you will never be able to see what is in front of you and who is in front of you who lives in that body is what I say. Who lives in that body and what is their story and why are they here in front of me? Because if you don't clean up your own act, you'll never have the optic to really see what's there. So we heal in the process of healing. That's my feeling. And I love the depth to which you go. But I do see this, really, your face kind of morphing into this really beautiful Native American. And I wonder, who you draw from within you, back. Worth finding out sometime.
I had thought there was native, but family that has done the DNA things, woo, um,
But
said no,
family's
it's
one
not in
thing,
there.
but the spiritual path, it has its own unique path of. I did past life regression for a couple of years in England with this really amazing woman. And I saw lifetimes of being a nun. I come from a Jewish family in this lifetime. And it was like, wow. It was like, I don't know, many lifetimes in many different countries being a nun. And I thought, wow, that has nothing to do with my DNA. That has something to do with my spirit. And I remember saying to my mother as a child, I really love Christmas carols. She said, not in this house. Not in this house, young lady. And I would ask questions about Christ, and I had friends who were Catholic, and I made them take me to mass. It was like I just had this huge need to know, and it's been part of my whole life and my family. My sisters and my cousins say, are you still doing the Catholic thing? Yeah, I am. I am. It doesn't preclude that I don't like chicken soup or that I don't like, Torah readings, but it's part of me. And it is not part of the relationship I share with blood. They can't comprehend it, but it's very strong in me. So that's what I'm wondering, these paths of DNA ancestral or spirit paths that built the character that we are, built the fiber of our spirit, or the crucible of our spirit that could hold our spirit, the bones of our spirit. I don't know if I'm making
Well
any
put.
sense.
Well put.
Yeah, and I think there's more. I think there's way more that I don't even know about that you are touching on. Have you read Dolores Cannon's work? Do you know her work?
No.
She's really fascinating. She's passed on, but she was a hypnotist. She learned hypnotherapy and started finding clients who had far memory of being with Jesus, of walking with the disciples, of knowing Nostradamus. I mean, and she wrote these extraordinary books. She lived in the Ozarks in Arkansas, and her work is amazing. Her books are amazing because she recorded these hypnotherapy sessions, and the people were she would hypnotize them. I guess they were in like semi-trance, and they would start talking about, well, and I'm talking with Christ now. I'm in a cave in the desert in Sinai. And I mean, they were in time and place, and they would give the wisdom of the time. And she recorded them all and turned them into books. I haven't read them all, but in the past year, I got maybe 8 to 10 of the books and started reading them. It's not a shamanic journey, but she was able to go into ETs coming to the planet like 20,000 years ago and breeding with native tribes in north of Canada. I mean, some of the stuff, it's like, really? Really?
Yes.
You might
Yes.
find it really interesting, but it is not a shamanic journey. I don't know I could never be hypnotized. It's not my thing, but I could journey, and I love the idea of a journey. but you might find her work really interesting. I know that she was on, you can see her on YouTube as well. She was interviewed by the Gaia TV station by Meredith
Yeah.
Wilson, I think her name is. I'm not sure of her last name. On these recollections. They're not journeys, they're recollections. And they go so far back.
That's
Fascinating.
fascinating.
But I don't know what you do with that information. I think in the shamanic journey, you're presenting people with the gift of healing. This has come up, this needs to be cleared, it needs to be transformed, and it needs to be integrated into the now. Where there's not these hypnotherapy sessions don't have that element. At least I don't see it. It may be there and I don't see it. I'm only reading transcripts. The thing of it is you are doing healing, you are clearing, you are opening, you are purifying. And then you've got the remedy to and out with you. Yeah.
Whether it opened them up to do that or it supported them during the integration process, which is very
Right.
important shamanically. It's like you give a remedy and it needs to take its time. Same with the shamanic work.
Is it
Or
a
coming,
slow process? Is this a slow process?
I won't work with someone shamanically for about 6 months
Oh, wow. Wow.
because it
Wow.
takes time.
Yes.
And
Good for
it's
you.
kind of like going in there and you open it up and you're moving everything around and you're transforming it um and I've had clients whose mothers have called them that energy was removed and transformed back to love and light where it came from, call for the first time and they were better. So the healing I've seen go past who's even in the room. um
Mhm.
and geez, I forget where my mind was going on that far. Where was I
Let me
saying?
let me ask you, how do you prepare yourself to do this work? What is your process, your ritual, what do you do?
Homeopathically or shamanically?
Both. How do you prepare yourself to work with people?
I stand in front of, I don't tend to call it an altar, but everybody else calls it an altar, where the crystals and everything is. And bare feet, shoes off, on the rug, grounding, pushing my energy through, and sage myself. And then I asked for the masters and the guides behind me who are working with me today to work through me so that I may see and hear and speak what I need to say and hear what I need to hear and listen. And I am, as I said earlier, but the veil between them and who's in front of me. And then I do a ritual to seal on my own auric field to protect myself so that nothing comes in that's not mine. And send love and go.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. What a treat you are. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
I'm so grateful. Who knew? Who knew? I was working for the IRS.
you. Who knew is right. Wow,
Talk about
really?
source putting me somewhere. And I was doing seasonal at the time. I was single mom, good federal job. I can, it's okay. I can stand on this. And at the same time, I'm making my first office and going to school and doing all this stuff. And it took about 3 seasons. And every time the IRS would call back up and be like, so you're coming back now? Source is like, so what you gonna do? He's gonna have the courage to do it. What you gonna do?
You have to have the
It took a
courage to do it. I
yeah.
saw that. I started homeopathy when I was about 44. I'd just come out of a divorce. I had left a country that I really loved. I'd lived in Spain for nearly 20 years and Africa, and I went to England, and it was like what am I doing here? What am I doing? I went to 4 colleges before I found the college where I really fit. Yeah, it was a journey. And when I finally found where I wanted to be, there were 28 people who started and 14 who finished. The attrition rate was really high. And we were sitting around a bonfire when we finally graduated. One of our students had a beautiful property, and we were there, and we lit this huge bonfire. And one woman said, I never thought I'd finish. I didn't know what it would take to finish. And then somebody else said, I never thought I would finish either. And it kind of went around the circle, and everybody said, I don't know how I finished this. I mortgaged my home 3 times to get the money to just pay the fees. You know, there was one time they would not let me pay in sections. I had to pay the whole lump sum in one go. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't have the money, and there was nobody I was willing to ask. And 3 women showed up. A good friend gave me a wad of money, and I said, what's this for? She said, you've been a good friend. Then an old lady, a very old lady in her late 80s, who I talked to regularly on the phone. She was a friend of my family's, and she lived in London, and we talked. I get this check in the mail. And I said, what's this for? She said, I think you could use this. I said, thank you, I'll pay you back. And the third one was a relative. It was my birthday, and she sent this whopping big check. And it came out, I'm not kidding, there was not $1 more to buy a lipstick with. It was exactly what I needed. I said, God, if you want me to be a homeopath, I need this whopping big sum of money in the next 3 weeks. And that's how it came in. And it was like, you don't question that. You can't question it. It was, I'm telling you, there wasn't $1 left over. It was the exact amount. And they did not know one another.
Oh my
And it was
God.
like, oh, it's like, okay, whatever it takes, I will finish this.
That
Whatever
is
it takes.
exquisite.
Yeah, it took me 7 years to do a 4-year course. And then it was okay, you got to jump into the pit and, you know, and do the work now. And that too was very magical. Magical in that I would take little pieces of paper and write about homeopathy is safe, gentle, and effective, and put it. I lived in a village in the north of England, and I would stick that on every single, you know, window. And eventually people started to come, and I never looked back. Once I knew I could, I never looked back. But I think if we were to ask 9/10 of those in our profession, we would all have a story to share about how we came to it. And in a way, I do think we were chosen to do the work. You can't be weak-spirited to do either shamanic work or homeopathy. You just can't. You're called to it. There's a spirit that guides us to it, and a spirit that sustains us in it. I did this podcast with David Lilly in August, and he talks about how he was guided and how his father was guided. It's a fascinating podcast. And I was sharing with him how really hard cases, when I couldn't see into it, I would call on Compton Burnett. I would call on James Tyler Kent. I would call on Robin Murphy after he passed. Please help me see what it is I need to see here. So I do believe in our guidance, and that you've refined it to this beautiful art, the shamanic and the homeopathic. What do you call it, Susan? Does it have a name? Do you have a name for it? Susan's homeopathy.
Susan's Homeopathy and Shamanic Practitioner. I
Right.
gave up. I was looking for a fancy name like Uncle. Uncle.
That's funny. Well, it says exactly what it is that you do. I want to thank you for being on the podcast and sharing your beautiful self with whoever is wise enough to open up this podcast and learn from this beautiful woman. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Ambika. This has been lovely. I'm so grateful that you asked me to do this.
Oh, I'm so grateful that you said yes. Thank you, Susan. I'm going to turn the recording off, and I just want to say you can get in touch with Susan. We'll give you her information and enjoy it. Enjoy the journey. I'd like to thank our guests today who've shared their experience, who have enhanced my life by developing skill sets and a vision of the world that is really expanded and I think beautiful. So thank you until the next podcast of Unscheduled Flights. Again, I'm your host, Ambika Waters, wishing you all the best.